Greetings and welcome everyone to my Company of Heroes 2 First Impressions. Now, I just want to say that I don't really have that much experience with Company of Heroes 2. I played Company of Heroes 1 for like 15 minutes and then I was like, this is okay, but that's about it. And I never touched it again. So, needless to say, I'm not that well experienced with the Company of Heroes genre, or franchise rather. So, do not think I am some sort of expert. I'm not an expert. If you want an expert, then go to, say, Bruce Willis, I guess. He's an expert of stuff. But I have played it a little bit, and here are my first impressions of what I think of Company of Heroes 2. So even though I haven't played many RTSs, and I haven't played many Company of Heroes games, or the Company of Heroes game, and I've only played the sequel, I think it controls surprisingly well, Like, everything you do in the game is, like, very intuitive. The game controls really nicely, like, everything is listed as to what you can do. The user interface is very, like, I'm not trying to sure how to say it. It's like, it's not plain, but like, it's very clear. Yeah, it's clear. It's got a very nice, clear user interface. Like, you've got it in the top right, your little squads and stuff, and you can click those, and it's like, oh, I've clicked them, and now I can control them and stuff. And then you got your little buttons you can press in the bottom right, and they've got the little hotkeys listed to them and everything. It's like, oh, I can press like K to do that, and then it's like, woof. So it's like, it's very clear as to what you're supposed to do. So there's no sort of like artificial difficulty of when the game's just being obtuse for the sake of being obtuse. It's like, player, this is what you can do. You can do this, you can do that. Now go do it. And then it's like, okay, that's fine. I can do that. As long as you have the required skills, you're not like held back by any lack of information. The game doesn't even have like a standard tutorial, as far as I know. So it just launches you into the first mission, and then bam, you're playing, and you've got all your little stuff, and it's like, here's what you do, go have fun. And it's like, okay, that was really quick, easy, and now I'm playing. And it's very nice how they've done that. It's really good. It's very simple, and it's quite impressive how they've managed to do that, because this is a surprisingly complicated game. It has a lot of depth. There is a lot of sort of like little things that you have to take into account, like how your squads have to take cover in order to avoid fire, or how you've got to merge your units, and these sorts of features are sort of like drip fed to you through the campaign, and so you never feel overwhelmed, but you still never feel like you're being like babied like in Assassin's Creed, I guess. So it's very nice, very nice. Anyway, enough of the controls, let's talk about the graphics. Now, the graphics aren't amazing. Well, like, when they're doing the cinematics anyway. The cinematic graphics aren't all that amazing. They seem to be using, like, in-game character models. So what's happened there is that they've zoomed in on these character models that were never intended to be, like, seen up close. And so they look a bit jaggy, and they don't look that great. They look fine, like, passable, but nothing amazing. And so that's sort of okay. But the graphics in-game, like, when you're actually playing the game, look really nice. They've got a lot of nice lighting. The weather effects as well are just absolutely gorgeous. The snow and everything, it's just, oh, it's gorgeous. I haven't seen, like, snow this good in a game since, like, Uncharted 2, whenever the hell that came out. It was 2009 or something? Yeah. It's been ages since I've seen snow as good as in Company of Heroes 2. It's just really nice. And so, also the lighting and how everything interacts with the environment, all the enemies really pop out in the background as well. So you're never like, is that an enemy? Is that no? It's just, they have a nice pop to them. Everything seems to really like be obvious. Like, this goes back to like the user interface, and they reflect, like, in addition to the user interface being clear of what you can do, like, everything is shown to you. So the same goes for the enemies. You're never like hindered because the enemies were sort of obscured because they were hiding, like, they were like camouflaged in like a bush that you couldn't see them through. Like, they pop out. It's quite obvious. So you never have to go like pixel hunting for an enemy. It's like, what the fuck? No, none of that. So that's good. Although there is a new little system where you can only see, like, in your line of sight, you can only see from where your units are. So if your units are in one specific area, you can't see around their little cone of vision. If you go out of that, then everything's covered by like the fog of war, and then you have to move your units and scout through that. And so that's pretty interesting. And so even if you already scouted that area, it still won't be visible like in some other games. So that's pretty cool. So the music in this game, oh my goodness, I don't know where to buy the soundtrack. If you can, I really hope you can, but the music in this game is absolutely phenomenal. It really is quite intense. They've got lots of like orchestral booms and basses and bings and boops, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Like, this is like on the same level of like Battlefield Bad Company 2 in terms of like sound design, and like it's just awesome. It's got such a real meaty feel to it as well. It's just, oh, it's very, very nice, very nice. So the story is about this guy, Lieutenant Izakovic, I think his name is. He's basically been a bad dude. He hasn't been listening to his commanders, and so now he's all like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And well, it's not very interesting, really. The characters are pretty, the moral sort of stuff is like pretty obvious, and it's pretty ham-fisted. It's like, we did a bad thing. It was for the greater cause. It's like, oh, but still the cost does not outweigh the thing that we had to do and all that. And it's just like, I'm not a real fan of the story in this game, because everything is told through flashbacks of Lieutenant Izakovic, I think that's his name again. So still, like, I never really felt like connected to it. It's like, as we go through the stuff, like, it does feel interesting while you're playing it. It does have those set pieces, so playing it is interesting, but the story that's sort of contextualizing everything, it's not exactly interesting that much. It's just, you don't really feel for any of for Izakovic, or Lieutenant Izakovic thing. You don't really feel any emotions toward him, or any emotions toward the enemies. Like, they don't really have that much to say. Like, I think that might be just because of the way that they've tried to tell the story. There's basically, at the start of the mission, there's a cutscene, and then at the end of the mission, which a mission is normally like 30 minutes, you have another cutscene. That's it. So it's like cutscene, 30 minutes, cutscene. And so you never really get to build up that sort of climax with the story and all that, because it's just getting interrupted by all these missions that are 30 minutes long, or even 40 minutes long, and it's like, really? So we're supposed to just like keep that in our minds? And so they never really have that much of a chance to advance in the story, because you're always taking so many breaks in between the story chunks that you never are like able to start these complicated plot lines and continue them on, because like the player will have already forgotten what your previous point was by the time they get to the next cutscene. Because it's like if they were to build it up in one cutscene, it would be 30 minutes until the next cutscene, and then they would be like, wait, what is he talking about? Oh, that thing? No, he can't be. And so the way that they've structured the story really hinders the storytelling experience that could be. Like, this is a pretty interesting story. Well, kind of. Like, it's trying to tell the atrocities of war, how everything is awful, and how this is really bad stuff, and stuff like that. And so, like, this could be told really nicely and all that, but then they kind of don't, because they don't really focus on the story. It's just an excuse to have like missions set up in an interesting way. So it's like, we'll just get this lieutenant guy and have him get under arrest, and then have him play through it and play through his flashbacks, which has been like done like so many times. Like a guy who has done stuff, and then we're finding out what he's done through flashbacks. That's been done so much already in games. Like Black Ops 2 and Battlefield 3 instantly spring to mind when I hear about how this game is structured in terms of like flashbacks gameplay, and then we get cut back to where the present day is, and then flashback again to the next mission. It's just like, oh, I'm not a fan of the flashback sort of thing. I don't like that. So that's a real problem. But yeah, aside from that, the game is pretty damn good. The actual gameplay is really nice, and that is really what matters in this sort of game. Everything is very clear. Everything has a nice sort of feel to it when you're playing it. If you can excuse the single player for being kind of like, well, not the single player, sorry, the story for being kind of rubbish, this game is absolutely great. The gameplay is really fantastic. I haven't tried out the multiplayer or anything like that. I am far too rubbish at this game in order to actually like play it at any sort of competitive level. Like, I played StarCraft 2, and like I failed the ranking missions, like the multiplayer. Like you're supposed to like enter it, and then you can actually enter the multiplayer after you've won the first entry missions. And I failed the entry mission, so I wasn't even allowed to like play multiplayer, or at least not real multiplayer anyway, with the bigger boys. So yeah, I'm not too good at real-time strategy games. I'm much better at, say, like turn-based stuff, or even just like platformers, I guess. So this is actually a real big problem though. The price of the game, it's pretty steep. I think it goes for like 80 Australian dollars or something like that. That's digital, by the way. So like you can get the standard edition for like $80, or you can get the digital deluxe edition for 120 Australian dollars. That's ridiculously expensive. And I don't know, maybe if you're a real fan of Company of Heroes 1, you can justify this price, but for me, $80 for this sort of game is just, well, that's a lot of money. And I honestly can't really justify that sort of price for this game. It's a good game, yes, but I would recommend waiting until a sale or something like that, because it's not $80 good, at least not in my opinion. Maybe if you're more of a fan of RTSs, and then the multiplayer will give you more of a reason to play it, because I'm not that much of an RTS fan, for me, this isn't really worth it. Because I don't play multiplayer, and because the single player is like only like 17 hours long, it doesn't really justify $80. So, but that's just for me though. I'm sure if you're more of a fan of RTS and stuff like that, and you like multiplayer gaming, then you'll really enjoy this. So thanks for sticking around, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my first impressions on Company of Heroes 2. You can pick this game up right now on Steam, and GG.